The Algerian War, also known as the Algerian War of Independence or the Algerian Revolution, was a war between France and the Algerian independence movements from 1954 to 1962, which led to Algeria gaining its independence from France. An important decolonization war, it was a complex conflict characterized by guerrilla warfare, Maquis fighting, terrorism, the use of torture by both sides, and counter-terrorism operations, effectively started by members of the National Liberation Front on November 1, 1954, during the Toussaint Rouge. The conflict shook the foundations of the weak and unstable Fourth French Republic and led to its replacement by the Fifth Republic with her strengthened presidency, with Charles de Gaulle acting in the latter role. Although the military campaigns greatly weakened the FLN militarily, with most prominent FLN leaders killed or arrested and terror attacks effectively stopped, the brutality of the methods employed failed to win hearts and minds in Algeria, alienated support in metropolitan France and discredited French prestige abroad. After major demonstrations in favor of independence from the end of 1960 and a United Nations resolution recognizing the right to independence, de Gaulle decided to open a series of negotiations with the FLN, which was concluded with the signing of the Evian Accords on March 1962. A referendum was held on 8 April 1962 and the French electorate approved the Evian Accords. The final result was 91% in favor of the ratification of this agreement, and on 1 July, the accords were subject to a second referendum in Algeria, where with 99.72% voted for independence and just 0.28% against. The planned withdrawal led to a state crisis, to various assassination attempts on de Gaulle, and to some attempts at military coups. Most of the former were carried out by the Organisation de l'Armée Qt Secrète, an underground organization formed mainly from French military personnel supporting a French Algeria, which committed a large number of bombings and murders in both Algeria and the homeland to stop the planned independence. Upon independence, in 1962, 900,000 European Algerians fled to France, in fear of the FLN's revenge. Within a few months, the government was totally unprepared for the vast number of refugees, causing turmoil in France. The majority of Algerian Muslims who had worked for the French were disarmed and left behind as the treaty between French and Algerian authorities declared that no actions could be taken against them. However, the Harkish in particular, having served as auxiliaries with the French army, were regarded as traitors by the FLN, and between 50,000 and 150,000 Harkish and family members were murdered by the FLN or lynch mobs, often after being abducted and tortured. About 91,000 managed to flee to France, some with help from their French officers acting against orders, and today they and their descendants form a significant part of the Algerian French population. Background: French Algeria. Conquest of Algeria. On the pretext of a slight to their consul, the French invaded Algiers in 1830. Directed by Marshal Bugeaud, who became the first Governor-General of Algeria, the conquest was violent, marked by a «scorched earth» policy designed to reduce the power of the Dey. This included massacres, mass rapes, and other atrocities. In 1834, Algeria became a French military colony and, in 1848, was declared by the Constitution of 1848 to be an integral part of France and divided into 3 French departments. After Algeria was divided into departments, many French and other Europeans settled in Algeria. Under the Second Empire, the Code de l'Indigène was implemented by the Sénatus Consulta of July 14, 1865. It allowed Muslims to apply for full French citizenship, a measure that few took, since it involved renouncing the right to be governed by Sharia law in personal matters and was considered a kind of apostasy. Its first article stipulated, "The indigenous Muslim is French, however, he will continue to be subjected to Muslim law. He may be admitted to serve in the army and the navy. He may be called to functions and civil employment in Algeria. He may, on his demand, be admitted to enjoy the rights of a French citizen. In this case, he is subjected to the political and civil laws of France." However, prior to 1870, fewer than 200 demands were registered by Muslims and 152 by Jewish Algerians. The 1865 decree was then modified by the 1870 Crémieux decrees, which granted French nationality to Jews living in one of the 3 Algerian departments. In 1881, the Code de l'Indigène made the discrimination official by creating specific penalties for indigenes and organizing the seizure or appropriation of their lands. After World War II, equality of rights was proclaimed by the Ordonnance of March 7, 1944, and later confirmed by the Loi Laminguy of May 7, 1946. Which granted French citizenship to all the subjects of France's territories and overseas departments, and by the 1946 Constitution, the law of September 20, 1947, granted French citizenship to all Algerian subjects, who were not required to renounce their Muslim personal status. Algeria was unique to France because, unlike all other overseas possessions acquired by France during the 19th century, only Algeria was considered and legally classified an integral part of France. Algerian nationalism. Both Muslim and European Algerians took part in World War I, fighting for France. Algerian Muslims served as tirailleurs and spahis, and French settlers as zouaves or chasseurs d'Afrique. With Wilson's 1918 proclamation of the 14 Points, whose fifth point proclaimed a free, open-minded, and absolutely impartial adjustment of all colonial claims, based upon a strict observance of the principle that in determining all such questions of sovereignty the interests of the populations concerned must have equal weight with the equitable claims of the government whose title is to be determined. Some Algerian intellectuals, dubbed oulémas, began to nurture the desire for independence or, at least, autonomy and self-rule. Within this context, a grandson of Abdelkader spearheaded the resistance against the French in the first half of the 20th century. He was a member of the directing committee of the French Communist Party. In 1926, he founded the Étoile Nord-Africaine Party, to which Messali Hadj, also a member of the PCF and of its affiliated trade union, the Confédération Générale de Travail Unitaire, joined the following year. The North African Star broke from the PCF in 1928, before being dissolved in 1929 at Paris's demand. Amid growing discontent from the Algerian population, the Third Republic acknowledged some demands, and the Popular Front initiated the Blum-Violet proposal in 1936, which was supposed to enlighten the indigenous code by giving French citizenship to a small number of Muslims. The Pieds-Noirs violently demonstrated against it and the North African Party opposed it, leading to the project's abandonment. The Pro-Independence Party was dissolved in 1937, and its leaders were charged with the illegal reconstitution of a dissolved league, leading to Messali Hadj's 1937 founding of the Parti du Peuple Algérien, which, at this time, no longer espoused full independence but only extensive autonomy. This new party was dissolved in 1939. Under Vichy, the French state attempted to abrogate the Crémieux decree in order to suppress the Jews' French citizenship, but the measure was never implemented. On the other hand, nationalist leader Fahad Abbas founded the Algerian Popular Union in 1938. While writing in 1943 the Algerian People's Manifest, arrested after the Sétif massacre of May 8, 1945, during which the French army and Pieds-Noirs mobs killed about 6,000 Algerians. Abbas founded the Democratic Union of the Algerian Manifesto in 1946 and was elected as a deputy Founded in 1954, the National Liberation Front succeeded Messaoudi Hadji's Algerian People's Party, while its leaders created an armed wing, the Armée de Libération Nationale, to engage in an armed struggle against French authority. France, which had just lost Indochina, was determined not to lose the next anti-colonial war, particularly not in its oldest and nearest major colony.